Awesome.
Hey, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of Disrupt Your Now with me, your host, Lisa Kipps-Brown. And I'm honored tonight to have my friend Fredrick Douglas Bussey, author of this book, Breaking Orbit. I always get mixed up which way to do it. Y'all, this is a great, great, great book. And so I just wanted to let you know up front about the book so you can go look it up while we're talking in case you want to ask him any questions. But Fredrick, tell us about your background. Your background is fascinating because I do know some about it from the book, but I want you to tell people about your background and how you got to where you are in life and entrepreneurship, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, let's see if we can condense 40 odd years of life into 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to a minister and his wife. My mother is a teacher. Grew up as a PK. We lived all over the South pretty much. We moved to Michigan. Then we moved back to Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama. My mother homeschooled myself and my three siblings for all 12 years. So this was back in the 80s and early 90s.
When
So,
very few people did that.
yeah, people looked at us weird when we said we were homeschooled. So it was a definite fish out of water kind of experience. Hated it for all my high school years because I really wanted to go to school, play basketball, talk to girls, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But now I'm so grateful for it because it allowed me to kind of live the life that I live now, which is very much outside the box. I fell in love with music and singing. A couple of my best friends started a vocal group. This is back in the days of New Edition, Boys to Men,
Oh, yeah.
vocal groups. You don't see many of those these days, but what some people call boy bands, we were a vocal group. So there were four of us, sometimes five of us, and we had this dream of becoming gospel music, R&B stars, and things of that nature. So I spent the next 10 years from the time I was about 16, 14, 15, 16, on just pursuing a music career. And as we did that, I developed a skill for songwriting and things of that nature, and had a dream of becoming a songwriter and producer. And eventually, as the group broke up, that's what I did. I became a songwriter in the music industry, graduated from being on the creative side to being on the business side, which was artist manager. I was a marketing director at a label for several years. And then I ended up leaving there and becoming a publicist. I became a partner in a PR firm several years later, was there for a couple of years, left and started my own marketing agency. And through some serendipitous means, some of it involved writing this book, led me to becoming a coach. And so now I coach entrepreneurs and executives how to tap into their ultimate potential, how they can how they are a one-of-a-kind entrepreneur and leader, and how they can step into that and really build a life of freedom and impact they really desire. So how did I do?
You did wonderful. And I have a million questions that I want to ask you about what you said, but I can't remember half of them now.
That's okay. We'll recap as we
My
can.
brain is gone. But I was going to say, one of the things that I love about your book, because see, I talk in my book, I talk about, it's in the part I think about your age, and because everybody always fusses about being old. And I'm like, exactly which years would you be willing to give up to be younger? Because if you give up anything, one little thing changes your whole life.
Very
And
true.
so I talk a lot about that, about you are the only person in the world who has your unique skill set. And so I was so excited to see you talk about it from a bit of a different angle and a lot more polished than what I do. But I love that you also see it that way, because I think too many people don't grasp that.
Yeah. Well, so in the book, I talk about the fact that, well, let me, I guess, preface it. So the book is about how to discover your gift, your unique capacity to impact the world. And one of the things I talk about is kind of the distinction between a gift, a talent, and a skill set. And we use those words interchangeably a lot, right? So
Yes.
we say somebody's really skilled, or they're really talented, or she's so gifted. And
Mm-hmm.
so but words with distinctions kind of give us a deeper meaning and a little bit more clarity on who we are and how we can live into the world, right? So I talk about how in the book, the gift is, as defined, a unique capacity to impact the world in a special and powerful way. Then we have talents and skill sets. And I talk about skills is that it's defined as your ability to learn how to do something,
Mm-hmm.
basically, right? So we go to school to acquire a skill set. We get a degree and then we're certified to say that we've studied this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But a skill set, if you can acquire it, it means it can't be a gift, because a gift is an innate thing, right? And
Yeah.
so somebody said, well, maybe it's just a talent then. Well, but a talent is defined as an aptitude for being good at a certain skill, which means it's just the likelihood based on your genetics and your certain
Mm-hmm.
traits that you have that you'll be good at certain things. So if you're 6'9", 240 pounds and can jump out of the gym, then you're probably, the likelihood that you're going to be good at the skill of playing basketball is pretty high, right?
Mm-hmm.
But basketball is not a gift, right? Even though you may seem gifted at it. And so I make that distinction because, as you're talking about with age, skills can diminish with time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And talents can fade or sometimes never even appear if you don't use them in the right skill set.
True.
So imagine if Beethoven had never had a piano at his availability, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would look at, well, is Beethoven no longer a genius? He was a genius in his way, but he was able to express it through a certain talent and skill set because he had that availability. But your gift in of itself, your unique capacity to impact the world, never changes. Over age, it doesn't matter how old you are, it never goes away. It's just that so many of us never really discover what it is.
Yeah, because we go through life checking off the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
First it's school, then it's whatever, just check, check, check. And so many of us are like, I'm going to do this until it's time to retire. And one day I'm going to do something different. But most people don't even know what they want to do. And it was interesting to me that in the book, you talked about struggling so much
Mm-hmm.
because you were good at all these things, but that you struggled so much to discover your gift. So share with us how you discovered it.
Oh, it's a heck of a story. Well, so when I left the PR agency, this was 2014, I resigned there. I started with several friends of mine, and I had this idea about what I wanted to do in my own agency. Because of friction that we were having, I really was unhappy. So I decided to leave, start my own agency. And when I left, I realized, shoot, I don't know what I want to do, because everything that I had intended to do was based on in that unit, that organization that we had built.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, well, I don't have those resources anymore. It's just me. How am I going to build this thing that I really want to do? I have all the freedom, but none of the resources. And it really made me sit back and start questioning, well, what do I really want? And I didn't know. I knew that I had potential to build something that was really powerful, really impactful. I knew I had more in me, but I couldn't seem to figure out how to get it out. I just had no idea. In the course of that journey, I hired a coach who was sales and marketing, right? So I started my own marketing agency, but I had to hire somebody else to teach me a little bit more about sales and how
Yeah.
to sell, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that skill set. And I'm going through this program, and he gives us an exercise where he says, well, your assignment for this week is to figure out what your solution is for your clients. Awesome. So I banged around on that thing for about a week.
That's hard, isn't it?
It's hard. I could not
Mhm.
figure out. And so eventually I sent him a message, and I just said, I don't think I have a solution. And he sent me a message back that transformed the course of my life. He simply said, God doesn't make people without solutions. And when he said that, it was like a bomb went off in my head.
I have chill bumps.
That's exactly how I
Yeah.
felt. It literally was like I just froze, and like the universe opened up for me. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, God doesn't make, that means I have a solution. That
You
means that,
have to, but you have to discover what that solution is.
and I was confused, because if this is true, then how come no one ever teaches us what that is? What does it mean to have that, this
Yeah.
solution? And we used to use the word in the coaching group, using your gift, or, walking your purpose. And so I started to just go down this rabbit hole and really start to unpack, what does that mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
started, basically, writing the book was me discovering what it meant and having conversations with people. So I started having conversations with a good friend of mine, Adam Meadows. And we would just, and I was, I said, I want to walk through this stuff and kind of share with you what I'm discovering to see if I'm off base. And more conversations I would have with people. My wife, we had 2 and 3 hour conversations at a time, some of which are actually transcribed into the book as
Mhm.
we're kind of unpacking this stuff. And it was just really illuminating to discover, people don't know this. Now, even though there's a lot of internet chatter out there and memes and people talk about, walk in your gift and discover it. But I've come to realize that most people don't really unpack what that means.
Yeah.
Um, and when you do understand it, it's so powerful. It's so transformative.
I think that a lot of people, it's just empty words, even the people who are saying it.
Hmm.
It's like a lot of the buzzwords out there, and I call it gobbledygook, where they're being loud and they're telling everybody stuff and people believe it, but they still don't know what it means. And
Hmm.
that's what I loved about your book. And I'm going to tell people again, it's Breaking Orbit. Excellent, excellent book. And I don't know how to say this without, I don't mean it to sound like an insult to you, but I don't usually like touchy-feely books because usually it's just psychobabble stuff,
Hmm.
and I didn't think yours was going to be like that, but I didn't know,
Right.
because I knew kind of what it's about. When I started reading it, I could not put it down.
Wow.
And I have to be honest with you, because of caring for my mom for almost 5 years with Alzheimer's, I got so, even though I was always a really big reader, I got so I could hardly read then. It's like
Hmm.
I didn't have the attention span, I think, just because I was always listening for her.
Hmm.
So I had expected to be like that with this book, but no, I mean, no, I had gotten used to, okay, I'll read 10, 20 pages, then tomorrow I won't remember. I have to go start all over. I read 100 pages the first night,
Wow.
and the next night I was able to pick it back up at the same place. And, obviously I can't remember every word, but I didn't have to go back and be like, now, what was I reading? And why was I reading this? And that to me was a huge deal because I would not have thought it was the kind of book that I like to read.
Wow.
And I hope you don't take that as an insult because it's definitely not meant that way.
No, 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 not at all. One of the things that, and I'll say this because, you're an author and I'm an author. A lot of times we we can struggle with writing the book because we want it to be so good.
Yeah.
And I discovered, because there was a period of time when I kind of had some writer's block, and I found a piece of advice that said, one, don't edit the book before you while you're writing it. Just write
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And
Just
the
let,
other
and it usually writes itself, doesn't it?
Right, and that kind of got tied into the other piece, which was the more simple I tried to make it, which is why sometimes I actually transcribe certain conversations when I was talking around it, and I would so I would record it, and then I use this app called Otter.ai, and I would
Oh yeah,
take,
yeah.
so
I
I would
use
transcribe those conversations, and so pieces of it I could take out and put. But when you're talking about something and explaining to someone face to face, you're making it more simple, or you're trying to explain it in a way that they can really grasp it right away. And so that kind of helped me. And what you're saying is very affirming. It really, really is. It's touching because I needed to make it as clear as possible.
Mhm.
So once I was able to kind of let go of the idea that it had to be like, Lewis Howes or Tim Ferriss or some other, Tony Robbins, like
Yeah.
just make it a book that people can understand
Mhm.
clearly. And so that's really a high honor for me. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I love it, and as a matter of fact, I'm planning now to go back and reread it because I think most of us are like this. No matter how successful we are, no matter how much we know about what we do, everybody feels like they're not enough, or everybody
Hmm.
feels like, what am I supposed to be doing? And they're always questioning themselves.
Hmm.
And for some reason, during and after writing the book, I had gotten in that loop with myself, even though I've owned my business for 25 years. It's just, I just really got into, and so reading it, and I made myself go and read it all the way through instead of thinking about it too much.
Hmm.
But now I want to go back and reread it and really try to take my time and think about it. Kind of like
Hmm.
you were working through your own thing while you were writing it.
Yeah.
I want to kind of use it in the inverse and help me work through my own thing.
And I've had that same experience. Other people have told me the same thing. They've read it like 2 or 3 times,
Mhm.
which I take as an honor. But I'm glad because I think that there is some stuff that you unpack, even as I go back and I read it, because I wrote it, and there's what did I write? Certain things that I
Yeah.
want to. but also unpacking it. As you know, as I learn more about this whole topic and how to integrate it and how to walk in it, I go back and look, because I'm like, well, could I made that more clear? And so there will be other books that'll come out of it.
Mhm.
But what you're saying about really being able to understand and
Mhm.
embody, you're right. We're so caught up in doing, so
Yes.
much caught up in accomplishments and titles and external validation and wondering, well, is that enough? Like, what does enough even mean? You know, enough
Mhm.
for who? Right?
Yeah, because everybody's different.
Right, right. And it doesn't mean anything at all, but what we make it.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I feel like people can get out of this book is just that you it's not just that you're enough, because I talk about that, right? We talk about the generation of young people that have kind of been raised to be like everybody gets a trophy and everybody
Mhm.
whatever. And so whether you were raised in that generation or not, that idea has kind of permeated all levels of society, no matter what age. And so
Yeah.
we're all kind of wondering, where's my trophy? You know,
Mhm.
am I a winner? Do I qualify? Do I make enough money? Am I pretty enough or handsome enough? And the truth of the matter is that all of those things are irrelevant. The only
Mhm.
thing that matters is your gift. Your gift is your identity. Your gift is your purpose. Your gift is who you are. And all you have to do is be. Like, we're human beings, not human
Mhm.
doings. You
Oh,
know,
I love that, Frederick. And I have chill bumps again when you said your gift is you.
it's who we are.
Yeah.
It, what so many of the things that we talk about in this world, we're distracted by, right?
Mhm.
All the different things that we use to identify ourselves, they are they are wrapping on the present.
Yeah.
The real gift is inside. And so if we get caught up in the wrapping paper, then we lose sight of the power of the gift, the purpose of the gift, and why we're supposed to have it. If we don't ever open it up, we never get to truly fully enjoy what is there for us to be able to receive, and
Mhm.
for us to share with the world.
So help people who are listening how they can go about discovering their gift. And I want to say the thing about the doing and the things that we surround ourselves with,
Mhm.
applying that to entrepreneurs, I think that is a lot of the source of the shiny object syndrome. Because it's like we don't know what we're supposed to do. We feel like we're not doing enough. So if I go get this thing, if I go get
Mhm.
this app or this whatever, I build this funnel,
Mhm.
then I think I'm doing something. But I do it and I'm still no better off because I'm not working to really any end.
Right, right. Because we think that activity equals productivity,
Yes.
right? And that productivity is the point, but productivity is really a byproduct of you walking in your gift. Because so uh, I talk about in the gift. There's three laws of giftedness, right? And then I'm gonna answer your other question because that kind of lays into it. But the three laws of giftedness to me kind of illustrate the simplicity of it.
Mhm.
The first law is that every person is created with a unique and powerful gift. So the idea that somebody is special, this other person is special, is kind of something that we're kind of conditioned to believe, and we believe that because what the real belief is that they're special and I'm not. So
Yes.
I have to do more to be more.
Mhm.
And when you understand that you already possess that capacity yourself, your own unique capacity, it's not like somebody else's, it's your own, right?
Yeah.
Then you can accept that. That's the first law of giftedness. Everyone has this unique, powerful, and special gift. The second law of giftedness says that every gift is created with a special purpose. That law is powerful because also we use gift and purpose interchangeably a lot of times,
Mhm.
right? But I think of it in a much more almost functional sense. If you look at that picture frame behind you, right? Your earrings,
Mhm.
the light switch on the wall. Everything that is created in our physical world was created with a purpose. The
Yeah.
picture frame was designed to hold a picture of a certain size and to create a certain effect, right?
Mhm.
So if you look in nature, everything has a purpose in the ecology and ecosystem. Um, but when we look at ourselves as human beings, we believe we don't have a purpose, that we have to go find one. And our
Mhm.
gift really is just like that light switch is designed for a particular reason to switch on the lights. So your gift has a purpose too. It's
Yeah.
innate, right? And then the third law of giftedness is my favorite. It just simply says that no gift can fail at the purpose for which it was created. So nothing in nature fails at what it was designed to do. Birds always fly. The sun always rises. Water always flows. The wind always blows. The sun always rises. The sun never shines. So grass always grows. Everything in nature does what it was designed to do. It never fails at the purpose for which it was created, and neither will you. So those three things are really the basis, the foundation for setting entrepreneurs and anyone free of this idea that I have to do more to be more. That if you can simply be who you are, you will be more powerful than all the things you could do pretending to be something that you're not.
Yeah. I think you need to do a workbook to go along with your book. Because, I mean, people can think it through themselves, but a lot of people having a little bit of structure and a few prompts helps them. I would buy it.
So I'm actually working on something like that because
Okay.
I want to do more workshops around this, like, for organizations and maybe even churches or whatever. But
Yeah.
because it is like you asked me, how does somebody go through discovering that process? I had to go through that process myself. I had the advantage of writing the book, so I was able to work through it a little bit quicker and kind of come to certain conclusions. But I realized that also not everybody is on that. They're not directly on that path necessarily. And
Yeah.
so when you get dropped into it, it can be a lot, like for my wife, when I was writing the book, she said, no, this is terrifying. She said, I don't, you're telling me I can do anything. Like, I don't know what that means,
It can be overwhelming. You're like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to figure this out?
And part of that is because of the way that we're conditioned, that there's
Yeah.
supposed to be a right way
Yeah.
to be yourself, right? And
Mhm.
we never taught to discover that. So in the book, I talk about 9 keys to discovering your gift. I won't talk about all of them here, but the first one is simply to accept that you have a gift, right?
Okay.
That's powerful, because if you can't accept it, then it would be like if you heard about a buried treasure off the edge of Costa Rica, right? Off the coast. And so, but if you didn't believe it, if you didn't accept that it was possible, you would never work hard enough to discover it, right?
Okay.
So you
Yeah.
have to believe it's there to pursue it. And
Good
then
point.
so accepting that it's there is a powerful thing
Mhm.
when you do that. And then this next step I have is to consult the manufacturer. No, the next step is to forgive yourself. Forgiveness. It's forgiving yourself and forgiving others, because a lot of times the blockages that we have around self-worth are embedded in forgiveness, or our inability to forgive, because someone has wronged us and we
Mhm.
hold that thing as a grudge because we feel as though, because we don't feel worthy,
Mhm.
right? That person didn't see us as valuable enough. And so we hold that against them. That becomes a part of our story or our narrative. Or we did it to ourselves. There's something that happened in our lives and we can't forgive ourselves. We blame ourselves for that. A
Mhm.
lot of times it's become of trauma that happens to us when we're children. And children can be, in the most gentle way, narcissistic, in that they don't know any better. So everything, they make meaning of the world about them. So if their
Mhm.
parents divorce, it's their fault, right?
Right.
If
Yeah.
somebody they love dies, it's their fault. And it's not, but that's just kind of how we assimilate the world. And so we carry that story with us into our adulthood. But when we're able to release that, release ourselves of that guilt and that shame, release others from the debt of owing us, right? Of
Mhm.
seeing us that way, it opens us up to be able to pour the gift out, because that's a block between us and the world, right?
Okay.
The third step is to consult the manufacturer, which is basically, I'm a faith-based individual. I believe in God. So I would say that, well, I believe that God created me. I would want to know, well, what is his plan? What was his purpose for creating me? Who is he, right?
Mhm.
Um, the Bible tells us that God created us in his image. Well, that means I have to understand who God is, right? To understand
Right.
what that means. But even if you don't believe in God, right, there are clues that are in our DNA that science tells us, that biology tells us, right? Things about our personality, our psychology, our minds are incredible engines of creativity. And again, because we often in our educational system, often in society, we press everything to the middle, and we
Mhm.
think about the mediocre, like just the regular life, right?
Yeah.
But the
That old
edges,
bell curve there.
right, right. Like, okay, so, and we believe this. So we believe that certain people are geniuses and we are not, right?
Hmm.
But when you understand how brilliant the human body is, the human mind, what we're capable of, then you start to realize that, okay, if I can just figure out how I'm designed, how I'm wired, right? And accepting, like going back to the first step, accepting my gift allows me to say, oh, wait a minute, my weirdness isn't weird at all. My weirdness is my specialness, because
Hmm.
everybody's weird in their own way, which means
That's right.
we're all special in our own way, right?
Yeah.
So those are the first three steps to really being able to unpack that. And then additionally, you're able to kind of unpack different layers of your own talents and gifts, because all those things are part of the wrapping. Then, as you get deeper, you're able to unpack the power of your gift, because how unique it is and why
Hmm.
it's so powerful.
Yeah. I just love it. I could listen to you talk all night. It's just so interesting though. And so a lot of what you're saying goes back to letting go of all the burdens or everything that we've packed in ourselves over
Mhm,
the years and giving ourselves the freedom, giving ourselves the grace that
mhm,
we give others
mhm.
to forgive ourselves for mistakes or whatever, and to give ourselves space to, it's almost like it is like discovering yourself, like getting to know yourself. We get to know other people more than we get to know ourselves.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We're a mystery to ourselves,
Yeah.
and yet all the clues that we need for being brilliant, for being powerful, for being
Mhm.
generous and creative, and all those things are all tied into who we are. And if we can just let go of the things that we're not, you know, literally,
Yes.
just
I think that's huge. Let go of the things that you're not, because we spend so much time trying to be like other people, trying to do the things we think we're supposed to do. And it's
Mhm.
like swimming against the tide.
Right. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, when you have a child, I have three young ones, right? So when my 3-year-old, my 5-year-old is drawing a picture, right? You always have to ask a child, what is this picture, right? And they'll
Yeah.
tell you, it's this. This is the boy, this is the girl, this is the house, and this is whatever, right? It may not look like that at all to you, but they know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we sit there and try and impose on them, no, a house is supposed to look like this, right?
Hmm.
This is essentially the first step in what we start doing. We start beating the creativity out of them. We start defining what the world is supposed to look like. When we
Yeah.
are born with the ability to create the world the way that we want to see it, the
Hmm.
way that it should be for us or for those that we love. And we rob children of that so often.
Hmm.
In my book, I talk about a study that George Land did. He was hired by NASA to train the scientists. Well, actually, to discover which scientists could help build the space program, because mind you, you're going to use scientists to build something that had never been built before, to do
Yeah.
something that had never been done. And so they needed the most creative outside the box thinkers, which is not traditionally what scientists are.
Right. Yeah.
So the reason why they hired him was because he had done a study where he studied children and creativity in children. And what he discovered was fascinating, that when children are born, he studied them from about 18 months on up. He discovered and he tested them. They tested out at about 98% genius level creativity. And
Mm.
so periodically he would test them every couple of years to kind of see where they were. And as they got older, gradually they tested lower and lower in their
Lower and
genius level.
lower.
By the time they were adults, they were in the 2% range of genius level creativity, which means that as they got older, society gradually figured out how to beat the creativity out of them.
Yeah. Just crushed it.
Trust it.
That's
And
so sad.
it's so traumatizing when you really think about it, because
Yeah.
right, the fact that we think that creatives are a type of person,
Hmm.
when in reality we're all born geniuses, we're all born creatives, and we just have to find our own particular type of genius to be able to tap into that, and the freedom to flow. Like, we're born naturally creating. Children don't think, well, I got to get up today and draw some pictures
Yeah, that's right.
and build some blocks. Play is a natural part of who they
Hmm.
are. They can't wait to play. And yet what do we do as adults? We say, well, after all my work is done and everything else, and if I have time, if I feel like it, maybe I'll do some play.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
they don't say, they don't, "Oh, what should I do? How should I play?" Funny story about playing, and this just is an example of how creative kids are. When my son, he's very creative anyway, but when he was little, I don't know, 3, 4, and he got in trouble, and I was like going to do it by the book, and I was like, "Hey, you go to your room," and I'm taking all your toys. He goes, "That's okay. I don't need any." And I saw him in there. He's like drawing in the sky, and he was happy as lark. He could have cared less that he was sitting in his room with no toys. And I was actually happy that he couldn't, that he didn't care. But
Yeah.
that what you're saying, it's so sad though, isn't it? That how that our whole society is developed around just crushing people down and fitting them into this box
Hmm.
that and I think it got worse in, I don't know, maybe that's because of the era that I know, but in the 1900s with all the manufacturing and all the, shift work
Hmm.
and everything, they had to make people fit into these lines and cues and everything so that they could be as efficient as possible. And I don't know, maybe it was just as bad back several hundred years ago, but it seems like it would be hard for it to be because people had to be more resourceful to just live.
Yeah. It's interesting. You hit dead on it. I talk about that in the book, in the chapter called Breaking Education. And I
Mhm.
talk about why education is the way that it is and why it doesn't really serve us. Well, it never really did, but it
I guess
served.
that's where I got the idea from. I stole it from you, Fredrick.
We'll share the credit. It's okay. Um, but I talk about how, in the 1800s, late 1800s, when there were so many immigrants from all these different countries coming to America, right? We
Yeah.
talk about the American way like it was really a thing, but they had to
Mhm.
basically invent it, and they
Yeah.
invented it through education, right? So they created an educational system because they had all these different cultures that weren't meshing. So they had to create a history, a story about America that they could teach all the children in one way and kind of give them. And as the Industrial Revolution kicked in, you needed people now to be able to work in these factories to kick off the economy because you're
Yeah.
making all these things. You need people to be able to who are used to being out in the wild, so to speak,
Mhm.
and working for themselves. They've got to be trained to the idea that I've got to come here and work for 8 to 10 hours a day, doing the same task over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you look at school, even though many teachers mean well, and I think
Yeah.
many educators mean well, the way that they teach doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
Even educators know that the worst way to teach somebody to get them to learn is to sit there and talk to them for 8 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
And we teach them memorization as if they're just going to regurgitate this information. It's like creating a widget over and over again. And that's
Mhm.
not who we are. That's not what we're made to do. But we
Yeah.
have to teach a child to sit, like when the pandemic hit, and then schools had to go to online training. You've got you're looking at students who are sitting there with headphones on at a desk, looking at the screen for 8 hours a day, and that's
Mhm.
worse than being in school. Now you're not even seeing your own family. You're just locked
Mhm.
into this, and so it's
Yeah.
almost like little computer programmers that are being taught, to sit here and just type away and give these answers. And you
Yeah.
see kids rebelling. You see them, struggling, falling behind in education, and it's because that's not who we are. It's not how we're meant to
Mhm.
be. And I, I really, I'm really hopeful that as other educators kind of see this, that they can challenge the notion of what it means, what school means, because so many things have happened in this last 18 months or so
Mhm.
that have radically altered so many industries, and
Yeah.
education stays the same.
Mhm.
And it can't be because our children aren't the same. The world isn't the same. The future is already here. And maybe
Yeah.
it's time we re-examine what that really means to be, for a person to be their full, most realized self,
Yeah.
um, and to step into their gift.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the educational system with all this because, you know, they've just been forced to face, like everybody else, they've been forced to face the efficiencies and the inefficiencies, but also the fact that parents now know, not to get political, but parents now know what kids are being taught and
Hmm.
whatever. And so, it's making a lot of people more involved who wouldn't have been. So there are good things
Absolutely.
and bad things that come out of things like the pandemic. So it is going to be really interesting to see. As a matter of fact, see, Fredrick, I got you doing all kinds of stuff. I think that you should be talking to teachers and to educators and researchers and stuff about all this.
Well, I'm gonna talk to anybody who will listen. I think it's a message for everyone.
Yeah.
They say you should never write a book for everyone because then it's really for no one.
Yeah.
I wrote it with entrepreneurs and leaders in mind because of that. But it really is a book for everyone
It is.
because everyone has a gift, and everyone
Yeah.
needs to know to step into it, right? So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I've had my books for entrepreneurs too, but I've had a lot of people tell me that I'm a teacher, I'm a this or I'm a that, but oh my God, because it's really life lessons,
right,
that can be.
right.
Okay, so tell us, you wrote the book trying to learn your own gift
Hmm.
because you couldn't figure out what you were going to do, what you were supposed to do.
Had no
So
idea.
okay, so I know the first three steps, but so the book actually helped you figure it out.
Yeah,
Writing the book actually, that was your process, almost like journaling. That was your process of figuring it out and making sense in your mind of how to discover your gift.
yeah. I almost want to say that it wasn't early, but it wasn't. I didn't write the whole book and then figure it out.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
figured it out, and then I started kind of exploring more about what it means. So in the book, I talk about the three types of gifts. That was one thing that really terrified me. That was one of the things that kind of I said. I said, "There's 8 billion people in the world. How am I going to tell 8 billion people to discover their own unique gift?"
Yeah.
What I was able to do though was to break it down into three categories.
Okay.
Um, so basically, there are three categories of a gift. There are the transformers, translators, and transistors. Transformers are the ones who have the capacity to create something out of thin air or to turn something from one form to another. So we would traditionally think of them as carpenters or artists or things of that nature. It
Okay.
doesn't, but again, and I want to emphasize this, your type of gift is not about your occupation. It's about your capacity, the way that you show up in the world. You just have the ability. Some people, this, they have the ability to just come up with ideas, to come up with new things. They're always so original in their thought. Or you can hand them something and then they can transform it into a completely different form. And you're like, how did you even do that? Right?
Hmm.
That's their capacity to do that. Those are transformers. Translators are people who are able to curate meaning. Basically, they're able to take an idea and synthesize it in a way that helps other people understand it, to create meaning in the world. So again, they could be artists, but what they do is think of a singer who's a songwriter, right?
Hmm.
And so they're able to take a song and give it new meaning because of the way that they sing it, or they're
Okay.
able to write a song and take an idea about love, something that everybody understands, but they're able to take a certain aspect of it and give it an entirely fresh perspective. And so those people often are authors or speakers or things of that nature, but their translation can happen in so many other ways as well. And so that was my gift when I was able to understand. Say, okay, this is what I do. One of the things I talk about in discovering your gift is kind of look back for clues, because it's so effortless. It's probably always been showing up in your life and you just
Uh-huh.
didn't know it. So I realized that I had been speaking in front of people for years. I tell the story in the book about how I got up in summer camp and I just improvised a comedy sketch, and I won the talent show, right?
Uh-huh.
And I forgot about that for years. It didn't even register to me that this was a thing that you're supposed to be able to do.
Hmm.
Comedians who go up for years go up and bomb on stage, and I was able to do this. I don't know, but I had the capacity. And so understanding that now when I'm looking back, I say, okay, so I've always had the capacity. If I just trust it, I can live into it. And so
Hmm.
those are translators, are people like that who can kind of curate meaning. And then transformers are people who we often call them like the life of the party, but they have a capacity or an energy to be able to transform a space, an organization, simply with their presence, right? They're the
Okay.
type of people that can enhance other people's gifts simply by being around them. They know how to make it amplify or make it bigger or better. And so sometimes there are people behind the scenes. Sometimes they are the superstar. So they may be the star of I think of somebody like a Jim Carrey, and I'm not saying this is his gift,
Yeah.
but Jim Carrey has this energy about him that can just transform an entire movie, right? He's that type of person.
Yeah.
And so those three categories are ways I kind of break it down. It helps to kind of generalize it enough that people can understand where they may fall.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some overlap in the ways that your gift shows up, because I think that's just the kind of power that a gift has. But being able to categorize it allows you to say, okay, this is the way I can show up most powerfully. And I know that when I wake up in the morning, I can do this with effortless, grace. I can be myself in this way no matter where I am.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most transformative thing it was for me, to realize that I don't have to work so hard to become something. I am something, so I can just be that and create whatever I need, whatever I want from wherever I am.
That's so powerful, Fredrick. That one sentence, it's just, I don't even know what to say now because I'm kind of overwhelmed. And people are probably like, what the heck? I was just so intently listening, though. But just the fact that, again, I think I said earlier, if we can take that step back, let our guard down, and just give ourselves the grace to allow ourselves. But I think most of us, we just think too hard. We try to figure it out. And we're like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do? And so, yeah, I've got to go back and read the book and read it more slowly this time and work through it. So, but I did. I was so engrossed in it and this is how I used to read. I used to would have read a book like that in just 2 or 3 days, but ever since caring for mom, I hadn't been able to. But I did it again with this one. But now I need to sit down and take my time. And since you don't have that workbook yet, I need to like write things down and stuff. So, or I already had marked the book, marking places that, so I'd go back, make sure, oh, this really struck me. So you decided that your gift is a translator. Okay.
Yeah. One of the things so I'll talk a little bit about this too, distinctions. One of the reasons why I say it's not about occupation is because a lot of times people can create that as their identity. They'll say, I am a doctor, or I am a lawyer, or I am a singer, right?
Yeah.
But no doctor is the same because no person is the same. And so the profession says that they're the standards and everybody has to do the same thing. You even see the disclaimers, right? There's no representation that this doctor is better than any other doctor or whatever. Yeah. And that's because legally they have to say that everybody's qualified based on this standard test that they have to take and all this other stuff, right? But nobody can live that way, right? So there are standards that you live up to, but you also have to understand how you uniquely bring your gift to the table. Your occupation can be a vehicle to express your gift, but your occupation is not your gift. Now, I'll give you an example. Who's your favorite singer?
Neil Young. I have a lot of, but Neil Young is the one that like touches my soul from back when I was in high school.
And why do you like Neil Young?
I don't know. The very first time I heard him, I just really connected with his lyrics.
Okay.
And I actually, one of his albums, every single night when I was a freshman in high school, every single night, I went to sleep to one side of his album. Obviously, I'm older because it was vinyl. So there was a side, But yeah, I don't know what it is about him, his voice and the lyrics, that I just really feel it touches me.
So Neil Young is your favorite artist and you love him. Would you say, objectively, would you say that Neil Young is the greatest singer in the world?
Oh, no.
Right. And so a lot of people think, well, in order to be the best, you have to be technically the best or whatever, right? Now, I would say this, I would always tell artists when I was working with them in the music industry, I would say, people's favorite singer is not always the best singer. It's the person that sings their favorite songs.
Right.
And they connect with those songs for many different reasons, right? Most of it is just because they believe them, right? There's something about them allows them to connect to it. They feel that authenticity. And so that's where the power of music happens, right? A lot of singers don't recognize that. So they could be technically correct, but their gift may not be in translating. So let's take those three gifts. Some people are transformers. they're completely original. Like you've heard their voice, it sounds like nothing else, right?
Uh-huh.
Or they have a style that's all their own, right? Maybe you think of like a what's his name, Bob.
Dylan?
Oh, Bob Dylan, right?
Yeah.
His you really unique voice, right? People will
Mhm.
say he's mumbling. He's what he's
Yeah, they'd be like, he can't sing.
but he
Yeah.
had a long way done with him.
Mhm.
So he has his own unique style, right? And so some people have that ability to do that sort of thing. It's just their uniqueness. They're able to make it their own. Other
Mhm.
people are translators, right? So they may not even write the words, but they
Yeah.
make you believe them as if they did because they have a way of translating the meaning in a completely different way.
Mhm.
Sometimes you look at Dolly Parton and Whitney Houston. They both sang, "And I Will Always Love You."
Yeah.
Completely different versions. And
Mhm.
Whitney's version was much bigger. It was able to connect with people in a whole different way. So that was her ability to translate this music. Whitney was not a writer, but she made you believe all those songs. And so she was legendary in her own way.
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from Dolly, but she
No,
had a
I know.
different type
Yeah.
of gift.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but then also you think about a transformer. Some people just have this energy that it's their own thing, right? And so maybe as a transformer, you're not necessarily a singer, but you are the writer. You bring the energy, or the producer, the composer that brings the music, right? And so
Mhm.
you're able to transform and elevate someone else's gift to a whole different level. But if you are not a singer, but you want to be the singer, but that your gift is, your gift is not in translating or transforming, right?
Mhm.
Then but you're a transistor, then you're standing in the wrong place. And
Yeah.
so your gift is not expressing itself in the proper way. And
Okay.
so I use that kind of as an example, but it can be in any profession. It
Mhm.
can be in any walk of life. You
Yeah.
have some teachers that are transformers, some that are translators, and some that are transistors. But
Mhm.
knowing your gift, understanding the capacity allows you to actually exist in the space that you were created to do in a more powerful way than if you're imitating somebody else's gift.
Okay. Okay, now I got to go back tonight and start reading the book again. All right, Fredrick, I'm going to hold it up one last time. Breaking Orbit by Fredrick Douglas Bussey. I got it off of Amazon. Is
Mhm.
that where?
That's
Okay,
where it
so
is. Yeah, you can
okay,
go to
so
Fredrick
go to
Douglas.
Amazon,
Mhm.
look for Breaking Orbit, but tell them how they can find out more about you, because we may have listeners who want to work with you because you are a coach.
I am a coach. I do work with one-of-a-kind entrepreneurs and executives. Um, I You can find me anywhere on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think we're live streaming live to Facebook
Yeah,
here
and YouTube. We're yeah, live on both.
and YouTube. My YouTube channel is coming as well.
Oh, good.
Launching a podcast through there as well. But yeah, fredrickbussey.com. You can send me an email, info@fredrickbussey.com. But I love for people to send me messages, especially on Facebook
Yeah.
or Instagram. Send me a DM. Let me know if you get the book, what you think of it. If you have questions based on this conversation, let me know. I have a Facebook group called Seven Figure Circle, $1 Million Mastermind. It's
Mhm.
for committed entrepreneurs who want to build a better, more impactful business and a life of freedom for themselves. And so we have a ton of trainings and free videos, trainings and interviews and things of that nature to be able to unpack a lot of potential for people as well. So we can.
Yeah, and I'm in that group. I just joined a couple weeks ago. I really enjoy it. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
good.
Yeah, we got some great stuff coming. So
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I want you to hang on for a second after we get off. But
absolutely.
thanks, everybody. I cannot remember who I'm having. I do this every week. I cannot remember who I'm having on next week. So you just have to wait. You just have to wait till I share it. But see y'all next week. Thanks for joining us. And thank you, Fredrick. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, bye.